The rail regulator Tom Windsor has ordered Railtrack to produce a detailed recovery plan for the entire network. But earlier, the Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott praised Railtrack's biggest ever Christmas engineering programme, which has meant the lifting of speed limits in some areas. Many commuters, though, still experience delays when they return to work today.
At the main station in Leeds, the new year of rail travel has begun with train services yet again replaced by buses. Work on the station's platforms has overrun. Intercity services won't be able to call there until it's finished. Another week. This latest hitch is unconnected with Railtrack's huge Christmas rail replacement operation, which the company says has been a success. Engineers laid 40 miles of new track, 10 more than expected. 80 speed limits have been lifted or eased. That added a note of optimism to John Prescott's visit to Railtrack headquarters today. He said the company had done a good job.
All the train companies have said by the different timetables they'll introduce, by the end of this month they will have 85% of those services. I think the passengers were glad to hear that the recovery programme we set out a month ago is now being delivered.
Virgin trains were badly affected by extensive re-signalling work on the main line between London and Scotland during Christmas. Tonight, Railtrack's been ordered by the rail regulator to produce a detailed line-by-line recovery plan. Train operators are slowly losing passengers, money and their patience.
We want our track back. We can't run the services that our customers want until we've got a reliable track to operate on.
For one passenger, the rail crisis has been a farce. Phil Jenkins was left stranded in the sidings on a train which had finished its journey. He didn't know because there were no announcements.
They eventually found me on the train. I then had a rather unpleasant quarter-mile walk through the Snail Cross railway tracks from the sidings to the station proper.
He's still waiting for an apology. For him and many others, an end to the chaos can't come soon enough. But passengers won't believe it's over until timetables improve. For many, that won't be till the end of this month. For some, it won't be till Easter. Tom Simons, BBC News, Railtrack headquarters.
Doctors are still waiting for the results of medical tests on Princess Margaret, who's confined to bed at the Queen's Sandringham estate. Buckingham Palace says her condition is a matter of concern, but not alarm. The Princess, who's 70, underwent tests after being ill over Christmas and the New Year. £87 million is to be targeted at some of the most life-threatening forms of cancer. The money will be spent in England over 4 years to try to reduce deaths from cancer of the stomach, pancreas and esophagus. But ministers admit it'll be years before cancer treatment here is as good as the best in Europe.
Thank you very much. Right.
It kills 9 out of 10 patients. Cancer of the esophagus is very difficult to treat, but David Kirby survived. It's 20 years since he had the surgery which cured him, and he's delighted money is being targeted at better treatment.
Well, our dearest wish is that everybody be as lucky. This money is going to help that be achieved. Won't be a 5-minute job, but it's going to help.
How are you doing?
Meeting cancer patients in Newcastle, the Health Secretary said the extra millions would radically improve treatment.
Over the course of these next few years, we can have the fastest improving cancer services of anywhere in Europe. There's a big effort going on to make that happen, sustained investment going in, not just for 1 year, but over a period of years, and a huge reform programme that is being led by local doctors, nurses and managers.
Right, and that is effectively...
There'll be new equipment because so much in our hospitals is completely outdated. Patients facing delays in treatment agree action is long overdue.
Definitely, because your waiting times is silly.
They've wasted £700 million on that, a Millennium Dome. They should have been, if they can waste that then, they could have done this months ago.
Our cancer survival rates are among the worst in Europe. For stomach cancer, 28% of patients survive 1 year in England, compared to the European average of 40%. After 5 years, the figures are worse. Just 12% here, compared to 21% in Europe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Beersmore.
Patients are fortunate if they're cared for at a major cancer centre like this one at Hammersmith Hospital in London. In the UK, survival can depend simply on where you get treated.
I think there's about a dozen centres in the UK which would be on par with the rest of the world, but there is a lot of patchy cancer care elsewhere, which is really has suffered over the last 10 to 20 years because of lack of money and resources, but particularly cancer resources, specialists, doctors and nurses.
There is a sense that something is finally being done about the UK's lamentable record on cancer care. Centres of excellence like this are so rare that it'll take 10 years of massive spending increases to ensure a good quality of treatment no matter where you live, and perhaps to match standards in France, Germany and the US. Fergus Walsh, BBC News at Hammersmith Hospital.
Workmen moved into the Millennium Dome today to begin stripping it out. It's been criticised by the Conservatives, who say the content shouldn't be touched before a deal has been agreed over the Dome's future. The company Legacy is due to agree a contract to turn the Dome into a high-tech business park, but nothing's yet been signed.
The Dome today stood deserted and rain-swept. Inside, work began on dismantling some of its contents, including escalators and 3 zones owned by sponsors. New Year's Eve marked the Dome's last day as a visitor attraction. It's to be turned into a high-tech business park, but the contract with the buyers won't be signed till next month. Critics say it's crazy to dismantle anything before that deal is done.
It looks like a strategy to wreck alternative bids to the Dome, and the reason the government only wants one bid for the Dome, they want a quick sale, they don't care about the price, they want to clear the decks for the general election.
The Dome minister, who was there himself on New Year's Eve, says a future sale won't be prejudiced.
What's been taken out at the moment from the Dome are functions and things owned by people other than the Dome owners themselves. If they weren't being taken out, then there would be penalty charges of between £5 and £10 million that had to be paid.
On its website, the Dome's buyer, Legacy, spells out its vision of a thriving cluster of high-tech companies, but there are doubts about Legacy's ability to find tenants. In Brick Lane, by the City of London, is a rival high-tech business park around the same size as the Dome. They say the Dome isn't the right place for such a venture.
Location has been our biggest friend. I mean, like I say, we're a stone's throw away from the city. And I don't think that they can buy that in any way. And I think that the transport links are too far off being satisfactory for it to be a convenient move for somebody.
But one of Legacy's partners in the Dome scheme is convinced it can be transformed into a flexible community of some 200 start-up companies.
The idea of the community and creating a UK hub, centre of excellence that will surpass anything else in Europe is a real push for us. If it doesn't happen, which we hope it does, we'll just continue on and try and attract those 200 businesses elsewhere.
Legacy said tonight it was still on course to sign a contract by the end of February. But if that deal does fall through, there is another buyer waiting in the wings. It's a group including P.Y. Gerbeau, the Dome's boss, who want to keep it as a leisure attraction. Nick Hyam, BBC News at the Millennium Dome.
There have been emotional farewells today for the castaways who've completed their year of subsistence life on the Scottish island of Tarrantay. 36 were originally chosen to build their own community, cut off from the rest of the world. The remaining 29 have left after a year of highs and lows, recorded for millions of BBC television viewers.
It was a television experiment, a test of physical and emotional endurance for 36 people cast away on a remote Hebridean island. The challenge was to live here for a year, a back-to-nature existence a world away from the rat race. Not everyone lasted the course.
Happy New Year, guys.
For those who did, it's now time to return to reality. Many of them flew into Glasgow today at the start of their journey home. Divorced mother of 3, Trish Prater, and driving instructor Trevor Kieran became an item on the island, just one of the romances which blossomed. In true celebrity style, Trish was being coy about the relationship.
You shouldn't be reading, believe it, you're reading the newspapers.
The papers have turned secretary Tammy Huff into a pin-up, and there are rumours of a career ahead in television. The series has also brought fame to Ben Fogle, the official island heartthrob.
I had no idea how to make cement or bread. I can do both. Might get them muddled up sometimes.
Tonight he's still in the Hebrides, where he's been looking for accommodation as he delays his return to normal life. Some of the 29 castaways became so enamoured of life on the island of Tarrantay that they plan to keep to the alternative lifestyle. For one castaway, an emotional return home tonight.
Cheers!
Mike Laird was keen to get off the island after a year away.
I was looking forward to leaving, as many people were. A lot of us were all packed up.
Last year he was learning how to build his island home. Now he's relieved to be back in his real one.
Just walking up the driveway, seeing my family out the window, it was just very emotional.
After its year in the spotlight, locals are hoping that the island of Tarrantay can resume its quiet life. June Kelly, BBC News.
Football, and there was a full programme this afternoon in the Scottish Premier League. Viewers in Scotland can see highlights of the Celtic game and all the other goals in Sports Scene after the news. If you don't want to know the scores, then look away now. Rangers, meanwhile, played this evening and won 3-1 at St Mirren. The match followed a memorial service earlier in the day at Ibrox Stadium to mark the 30th anniversary of the worst disaster in Scottish football history.
Survivors, relatives and other Rangers fans gathered at Ibrox to remember the 66 people who died at the ground 30 years ago to the day. A statue was unveiled of John Gregg, the captain on that fateful occasion, and a minute's silence observed at all Scottish League games. The victims lost their lives in a crush on Stairway 13 after an Old Firm derby. Rangers rebuilt Ibrox into one of the finest grounds in the world and the club into the dominant force in Scottish football. Tonight the thoughts of Rangers fans of all generations were back on the pitch, with the champions away to St Mirren. Tory Andre Flo gave Rangers the perfect start with an early header. But the advantage was cancelled out when a high challenge from Rickson led to a penalty for St Mirren and the equaliser scored by Gillies. A classy move gave Rangers the lead again thanks to an even classier finish from Flo, and an emphatic 3-1 win was just the ending Rangers fans wanted to a highly emotional day. Neil Bennett, BBC News.
It's 26 minutes past 10. I'll be back a little later with the latest on the day's headlines. But now, the news where you are.